And it's not politicians who will tell us whether God is important or God is not important. It doesn't require human affirmation.
Okay, Bishop, talking about the cynicism of the people, well, just about this time last year, well, just over a year ago, there's all that hula baloo about fuel subsidy, when there was, well, this country ground to a halt, people protesting when they heard all the things that were going on in the fuel sector. And one of the promises the president made was that refineries would be built. And Nigerians have not seen any refineries. In fact, it seems to Nigerians that he has even reversed that. Nigeria is not looking at building any refineries anymore. So do you blame Nigerians for being cynical when government says something and everyone just says, there they go again, let us move on with our own?
Well, I think that is the danger. I try my best, as a patriotic citizen, to give everybody a chance. Indeed, a lot of these initiatives I participate in, people keep saying to me, why are you wasting your time? These people are just buying your integrity. And I say, well, this is my country. If they think there is any bit of integrity for me to offer, where will I go and offer it? Is it in America? Is it in... this is my country, and I will do everything I can to make sure it functions properly. Because I remember somebody made me an offer in the United States and he couldn't believe it when I told him. I said, listen, for the world, I will not live in this country. I said, because if I can give you 150% of my time and life, I will not achieve anything. But in my country, 1% of my energy, I will see the result. So the point I'm making is, you see, we must also be very careful. Everywhere in the world, cynicism against office holders, whatever, but the motives can be different. I don't think that we should see ourselves as an opposition to government. There are people who are legitimately they've established a political institution to deal with that, and so the reason why they want Jonathan to fail is not the same with the reason why I would want Jonathan. There are people who will be happy if Jonathan fails because they will take the seat. You concede them that, and you concede their cynicism. But we must also be discerning enough. We cannot continue to say that nothing is happening. The government may have its own problems with effective communication. And for me, it's really a very serious problem. Because communication has been so politicized that people believe that if you are out there talking for government, then it is government, the president is your boss, he's the one paying your salary, and you're defending him against the incursion of ordinary Nigerians. Now, good, effective communication strategy, especially in a country like ours, where there is a very huge percentage of the population that, as a result of the trauma of being lied to severally by government, have learned not to trust government. You require a completely different communication strategy to deal with those kind of situations. And I've always said, look, if you are in a democracy, you don't need. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if you ask who is the Minister of Information in the United Kingdom, who is the Minister of Information in America, who is the Minister of Information, you require these institutions for propaganda when you are in a dictatorship where there is a severe crisis of legitimacy. People can hear you, they don't believe you, but you are insisting. Fine. But in a democracy, what you need is information. Give people the information, but also trust their judgment to be able to process that information and make up their mind. This is the essence of an open society. Now, people have become cynical, but again, their cynicism is based on experience. And so my point in this matter is simply to say, look, we would like to know what are the consequences when government took this decision, because we've lost the text. We've really no idea what is happening or who is going where. We don't know where the private sector fits in. We don't know where individual initiatives fit in. Right now, we're still debating the whole question of what is going to happen in Ogoniland. We're going to the second year now since UNEP submitted their report. You just had the court ruling in Holland against Shell and so on. And here we are still not able to generate enough political will to clean up our act. So for me, it's really the method of processing information is still what I believe is the biggest problem.
So if we have to fast track to 2015, what kind of things should Nigerians be looking out for that election, and what kind of leader or leaders should we be looking at putting in government, and how do they protect their vote to ensure that they voted right and they've got the right thing done in terms of the right people in governance? And that cuts across. It's not just the presidency now, because leadership cuts across all the way from states down to local government and across the entire spectrum.
Well, I like the metaphor used by Fashola 2 days or 3 days ago when he talked about the fact that, look, you take your car to a mechanic, he fixes it, then the car still breaks down, he fixes the car. So really, and I like that metaphor. Really, it's a question of us asking the question, what kind of leader do we need? And I've argued severally, what we're looking for in Africa right now is a mechanic. Somebody to get the job done. And that getting that kind of job done, it is visual. There are certain things you can see. Let the politicians worry about 2015. All right? But like I've said, I don't know why anybody in his right senses should be worried about 2015, because first of all, we don't know who is going to be alive in 2015. If only we learn to live one day at a time and to do what needs to be done pretty well. Because you have seen in this country, one of the tragedies, one of the interesting things with Nigeria is that most of those who have spent their money preparing to be president of Nigeria never really made it. So it has always, that's why I say it's always been a function of good luck. So, and if good luck doesn't happen to only one person, it can happen to anybody else. So for me, it's a question of the level of our own state of preparedness, in terms of, rather than letting politicians tell us all the things they want to do, we should actually be seeking to negotiate to a very firm position in which we can actually be the ones to tell politicians what we want them to do. Because so far, it's the other way around.
So what do you have to say to someone like Asene Matthias on Twitter, who said that, I'm amazed listening to this great philosopher. Only when philosophers become kings in Nigeria that there shall be light.
Well, it's the old Platonian expression. But by being human, you're a philosopher. And I also don't believe in all these things. People think that only when a particular kind of people get to power will we. That's really not the point. We don't know. So far, when we say, if you're a Nigerian and you're thinking about the kind of people you want to be president, you're not including women in that conversation. Okay, you're not including maybe people with disability in that conversation. You're not including, it's a diverse country. All we're looking for, and my position has always been that somehow, the way these things are, if you have a momentum, that momentum will define the kind of leader that fits in. So far, there are too many of us comfortable in our sitting comfortably on our chairs, just hoping that somehow at the press of a button, Nigeria is going to change. Clearly, look, you can see what is happening in other parts of the world. I said it the other day, and people thought it was a bit surprising. I said, there will never be a revolution in Nigeria. And the reason I'm saying that is very simple. You only revolt against dictatorship and against a closed society. This country is open for business. And that business means if you believe you have the intellectual capital, there's no need leaving the job to be done by other people. Indeed, the job of governing Nigeria is so serious, it should not be left to politicians, because we've left it to the politicians. Look where they've gotten us to. So for me, my own interest, and this is why you hear me continue to talk, because from my own little place that I occupy, this is what I see. I expect you, I expect all of us, students for whom we are making all this noise, because the future has to be better than what we are seeing today. And for that to happen, we cannot leave our future to politicians, because many of these people, as I said, have only stumbled and fumbled into politics with no antecedent, no experience of having run a good business. Obama could say, and people said it openly, to be editor of the Harvard Law Journal was not a mean achievement. But Obama knew that he had a vision when he worked towards being editor of that, of that prestigious journal. And as you know, Obama was deliberate in deciding to go to Harvard. And when it mattered, he began to press the buttons. When Ted Kennedy gave the signal, he was harvesting what had already been sown. So really, for me, young people who are in the university, who have visions about being president or governor, The coast is open, but we must have the capacity to dream. So far, it's looking as if only those with money can be president. But if we can take a metaphor away from Goodluck Jonathan, it is to say even those without shoes can be president of Nigeria.
Okay. So in wrapping up then, Bishop, in wrapping up, if there are specific things that you can look at, and there must be, the things you would look at and say, if I were to have the chance of influencing change, what areas would you want to influence change?
I wish you don't buy patriotism in the market.
It's not for sale.
But just look at this Africa Cup of Nations.
Yes.
Look at poor Ethiopia. Ethiopia almost literally emptied itself. People traveled for 4 days to get to South Africa. They didn't go past any stage. But they had the biggest population supporting their people. This morning, Stephen Keshi is literally not quite in tears. But it is the same Nigerians whose team is struggling to bring honor and glory to our country that are running down the team. Something must be wrong with us as a people. You don't look, what I see in this country, you take a part of Lagos and travel around Kenya and see, or any African country, and see whether you can insert any of those things in any part of Africa. People with less than we have, people with far, everybody has a reason for bitterness. But we cannot run this country by running down almost every public office holder, by running down almost everybody except our homes and our families. We are pretending that we're not the most unhappy people in the world. We're not the most violent society in the world. How can we allow others to define who we are? Listen, and I will end on this. For goodness sake, if you're a married man, like I told you yesterday, how people perceive you and your wife is a function of your collective decision. You may be married to the most beautiful woman, the most talented husband or whatever. How you want him or her to be perceived is how others. And my worry is that, Nigerians are running down this country in a way and manner that I worry so much. Not because things are perfect, but they are not perfect anywhere. And the president will be here, he will go. The governors will be here, they will go. This country is going to remain. But for things, if you take the football team as a metaphor, nobody does the kind of things we do in Nigeria. Tomorrow, if they win this match, and I hope they win, the same Nigerians will begin to. You can't build a country with citizens that are flip-flopping. One moment they are this, another moment they are that. We're not the most unpeaceful part of God's real estate. I keep saying, it's a heck of a country. I criticize it, but we must become a bit more constructive because this country is ours to build.
That's a very good note to wrap it up. Bishop Kukah, thank you very much for being on Sunrise this morning. We really appreciate your presence and the ideas that you have shared with us. I guess the message to take away is the fact that Nigeria may not be as bad as it seems, and actually it is our country no matter how bad it is, and we have to cherish that and share that as a message. Thank you very much, sir.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Well, Sunrise is not going away. We're just taking a break, and then in just a minute or so we will be back with yet, as Alera will say, yet another very interesting segment. Don't go away.